platformed to highlight the importance of not wasting food and of supporting those in need. He never forgot the shame he had caused Zora Bibi, nor the profound lesson she, and the aroma of freshly baked naan and simmering karahi usually brought a sense of comforting warmth to the bustling streets of Lahore's Anarkali Bazaar. Tonight, however, it felt like a cruel mockery. 80-year-old Zora Bibi, her frail frame draped in a threadbare cotton dupatta, clutched her worn cloth bag tighter, the gnawing emptiness in her stomach a more potent reality than the vibrant chaos around her. Her eyes, clouded by age and hardship, scanned the illuminated facade of the Royal Spice, a restaurant known for its opulent decor and even more opulent prices. A chill, sharper than the late autumn air, seeped into her bones. It wasn't just the cold, it was the chilling silence of a hope dying. Just last week, a whisper had reached her, carried on the wind through the narrow alleys where she sought refuge each night. They said the Royal Spice sometimes gave away leftover food to the needy after closing, a rare act of charity in a city often indifferent to its forgotten souls. Zora Bibi, whose memory was a patchwork of distant joys and recent sorrows, clung to this whisper like a lifeline. Her grandson, young Bilal, lay feverish in their makeshift shelter, his small body racked with a cough that sounded like a death rattle. He needed sustenance, real food, not just the stale crumbs she managed to glean from vendor stalls. As the restaurant's ornate wooden doors swung open, releasing a fresh wave of spices and laughter, Zora Bibi took a hesitant step forward. A young, impeccably dressed waiter, his smile as polished as the brass fittings on the door, greeted a couple dripping with jewels. Zora Bibi felt a flicker of apprehension. She was a ghost in this world of glitz, an unwelcome shadow. Yet Bilal's pale face swam before her eyes, pushing her onward. Her grandmother had always spoken of Baraka, the divine blessing in sustenance and the sanctity of sharing. But this place, with its towering walls and dazzling lights, felt far removed from such simple wisdom. She waited patiently, a small, hunched figure against the grandeur. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Finally, the waiter turned, his smile dissolving into a look of mild annoyance as he registered her presence. "Yes, Daddy Amma," he asked, his tone polite but distant. Zora Bibi's voice, a reedy whisper, seemed to get lost in the ambient clatter. "Beta," she began, her eyes pleading, I heard you sometimes have extra food at the end of the night. My grandson is very sick, and we haven't eaten properly in days." The waiter's professional demeanor faltered. A flicker of something pity perhaps, or more likely, embarrassment crossed his face. He glanced around as if worried someone might overhear. "Daddy Amma, I'm sorry," he said, his voice dropping. "We don't do that here, our policy. We don't give away food." His words were like tiny, sharp stones, each one hitting her. Zora Bibi felt a warmth spread across her cheeks, a flush of shame. It wasn't just the denial, it was the unspoken judgment in his eyes, the subtle implication that her very presence was an inconvenience, a stain on their immaculate establishment. The whispers of the restaurant staff, the sidelong glances from departing patrons. Suddenly, she felt them all. She was not just being denied food, she was being denied dignity. The air thickened, pressing down on her, until the grand restaurant with its alluring aromas transformed into a giant, mocking maw. The world seemed to shrink around her, leaving only the burning shame and the desolate emptiness in her gut. The sacred concept of Baraka felt utterly, terrifyingly absent from this place. Ariz Khan, a rising star in Lahore's culinary scene, prided himself on his progressive outlook. Born and raised in the city's affluent Defense Housing Authority, he had spent his formative years in London, refining his skills at Michelin-star restaurants. He returned to Pakistan with a vision: to revolutionize traditional Pakistani cuisine, blending it with global techniques and presenting it to an elite clientele. The royal spice, his brainchild, was the epitome of this vision. Sleek, modern, and utterly disconnected from the dusty bazaars and ancient folklore that shaped much of Lahore. Ariz, with his sharp suits and even sharper wit, often scoffed at what he called superstitious nonsense. He believed in logic, efficiency, and profit margins. Old wives' tales about jinn, blessings, curses, and the sanctity of food were, to him, charming relics of a bygone era, best left to the uneducated masses. He was a man of science and business, not mysticism. His grandmother, a devout woman who still clung to the old ways, often spoke of rizq, sustenance, and baraka, divine blessing, emphasizing that disrespecting food or those who sought it invited cosmic disfavor. Ariz would simply nod, a polite, dismissive smile playing on his lips. "Nanny John," he'd say, "we live in the 21st century. God helps those who help themselves, and my business thrives on smart management, not ancient rituals." The incident with Zora Bibi, though a mere blip in the restaurant's busy evening, had somehow stuck with Ariz. His manager, a zealous young man named Rashid, had recounted it with a dismissive wave of his hand. "Just another beggar, chef," he'd said. "We can't have them loitering. It scares off customers." Ariz, however, found himself unexpectedly unsettled. He'd seen the old woman's face for a fleeting moment as she turned to leave, and something in her eyes, a profound, ancient sorrow, had pricked at his carefully constructed indifference. A few days later, a strange series of events began. First, an unusually large shipment of premium basmati rice, known for its fragrance and elongation upon cooking, arrived at the restaurant. But when his head chef prepared it, it remained stubbornly stiff, lacking its usual aroma. "It's like cooking stones, chef," the exasperated cook complained. Then the tandoor oven, known for baking the perfect naan, began to malfunction. The naan came out charred on the outside, raw on the inside, or simply wouldn't rise. Patrons, typically effusive in their praise, began to complain. "The food tastes off," one noted. "It lacks its usual zest," another remarked. Ariz dismissed it as bad luck, perhaps a faulty batch of ingredients or a technical glitch. He ordered new supplies, called in engineers, but the problems persisted. The exquisite aroma that had once filled the royal spice seemed to fade, replaced by a subtle, unsettling blandness. Even the most perfectly cooked dishes seemed to lack something, an intangible quality that made them truly special. The restaurant, once buzzing with an almost mystical energy, felt oddly lifeless. His grandmother, Nanny John, came to visit one evening. She walked through the kitchen, her eyes, sharper than her age suggested, scanning the pots and pans. She picked up a piece of the problematic naan, sniffed it, and then looked at Ariz with a knowing gaze. "Ariz Beta," she said, her voice soft but firm, "there is no baraka in this food. You have lost its blessing." Ariz scoffed, but a tremor of unease ran through him. The final straw came during a high-profile culinary competition. Ariz was showcasing his signature dish, a delicate slow-cooked lamb nihari with saffron-infused rice. He had prepared it meticulously, every ingredient perfect, every technique executed flawlessly. But when the judges tasted it, their faces remained impassive. "It's technically perfect, Chef Khan," one judge remarked, "but it lacks soul. It's empty." Ariz was dumbfounded. He had never received such a critique. Later that week, while reviewing security footage, he stumbled upon the footage from the night Zora Bibi had been turned away. He saw the frail woman, her hopeful face, the polite but firm rejection from Rashid, and then her shoulders slumping in defeat, her head bowed in shame. A sudden, sharp pang hit Ariz. It wasn't just a beggar. It was an old woman, humiliated for a basic human need. He remembered his grandmother's words. "Disrespect for Rizak brings misfortune." To turn away someone seeking sustenance is to turn away Baraka itself. He brushed it off, but the image haunted him. The next morning, an influential food critic published a scathing review of the royal spice. The title screamed, "Royal Disappointment, Where Flavor Dies." The review highlighted the lack of taste, the mechanical perfection without soul, and most damningly described the restaurant's atmosphere as cold and unwelcoming, devoid of the warmth one expects from Pakistani hospitality. The review specifically mentioned an incident where an elderly woman was seen being turned away from the entrance, hinting at a lack of compassion that permeated the establishment. Ariz felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. This wasn't just a coincidence anymore. Desperate, Ariz confided in Nanny John. He told her everything: the failing food, the declining customers, the scathing review, and the haunting image of Zora Bibi. His grandmother listened patiently, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she simply said, "The Baraka has left your food, Beta, because you turned away the needy. You showed arrogance where there should have been humility. Food is not just sustenance. It is a divine gift, and sharing it, especially with the hungry, invokes blessings. You have violated a sacred trust." Nanny John then prescribed a daunting task. "You must find that old woman," she instructed. "Apologize to her from the depths of your heart. Share your best food with her and her family. And for 40 days, you will personally distribute food to the poor outside a different mosque each morning. Only then, perhaps, will the Baraka return."